So I was hired by this company, this real estate company, to come in and to do a coaching call. Now we're doing it by Zoom. And they want me to help them in 45 minutes how to sell more real estate, how to persuade people, how to build rapport, and how to help them recruit more people into their organization. So I'm like, okay, 45 minutes to do all that. Let's go with a technique that you can use in all of those areas. So instead of giving them a book of scripts and all of that, I just said, let's learn a technique that when you master this technique, you can use it in all of those areas. And so here I am, I'm on the call, and I'm asking for a volunteer. I said, I just need a volunteer. So this young lady raises her hand and says, "Hey, I'm willing." I said, "Gotcha, cool. Hey, listen, before we get into like role play and sales techniques and features, benefits of benefits, all that, I'm just curious, like, if I could ask, like, what's important to you about real estate?" So there's a couple things there. Like, number one, when you ask somebody, like if they know they're going into, let me rephrase that. They know they're going into a sales situation, a training situation, resistance can be high. But when I just kind of like pre-framed it as, hey, before we get into all of that, I'm just curious, like, what's important to you about real estate? And those 5 words, what's important to you about? What's important to you about real estate? What's important to you about relationships? What's important to you about, social issues, whatever it may be? Just by asking it and framing it like just out of curiosity, she began to tell me. She said, well, number one, I get to help people and I get to make money, and I just love real estate. It's a very, very basic surface level, right? Well, almost every real estate agent would tell you. Now, gotcha. Cool. And what else? And she gave a little bit more, but again, surface level. But what I heard one word repeated, or one phrase repeated twice in that was, I get to help other people. So, and you're listening for like words that are repeated or phrases that are repeated, but you're also looking for body language. You're listening to tonality. So I found an area there. I'm like, listen, hey, I love that. I found an area of agreement. Had a very small like dialogue back and forth. Then I said, hey, look, I'm curious that, like, when you say helping other people, like, what's important to you about that? What's important to you about helping other people? It was there that I noticed her body, like, she sat up, she looked up, like, to the right and looked up, like her eyes went up on top of her head. So she was accessing a different part of her consciousness. She said, took a deep breath. She said, well, and then she went to tell me the story about, a very short story, but a short story about helping other people and how people have helped her. And she feels this, just kind of her duty to give back and help people. And she told me about this real estate deal where she was able to help someone that didn't have a home, had bad credit, and she was able to help them find a home, etc. Gotcha, cool. And then I wanted to continue. So I said, and so very powerful word. And would like you're curious, and she continues to talk, and she tells me even more. And again, I'm listening for phrases that she repeats more than once. I'm shaking my head. I'm listening to her like I'm in agreement. So again, I find an area of dialogue. Now, again, this is conversation. We're just having a conversation here. And so I found an area of agreement, and I knew what word she repeated over and over. So after a moment or two, a few sentences back and forth, I'm like, hey, listen, so you said like you get to help other people. Obviously, you want to make money, but you get to help other people. And then you mentioned this, and I did not remember exactly what the second phrase was that she repeated, but I mentioned that too. I said, like, ultimately, when it comes to that, like, what's most important? It was really interesting because no longer did she look up and like her body language like go up. Her body language actually kind of like sunk. She almost like sunk in her chair. Her head went down, her eyes pointed down. So she's accessing a different memory or a different pattern of consciousness. And she looks back up at me. When she looks back up, she like catches that she's about to start crying. And she lowers her head again, and you can see that deep breath. And then she comes back up and she says, well, and she starts choking up, even as she's trying to talk. And she closes her eyes, and you can literally see a tear going down her face. I had people help me when I was a child. I had to have people help our family, people that had to help our family, strangers that helped us. And here I am, almost 30 years old, and I'm doing okay in the business, but I see other family members that are still struggling. They're in the wrong place. They're not doing what they've been called to do. And I just want to be able to help people. I want to be able to help people own a home, build for something for their future, because I had to have somebody help me. And she went on, and I was like really empathetic and listening. Again, like nodding your head, just showing that you're listening. Gotcha. What else? When I said what else, I could see her again think for a few more minutes, and then she just poured out her heart. And she's crying. She's having a hard time even talking. I said, listen, it's okay. It's okay. And so ultimately, she was like, hey, whether it's because I'm a female, whether it's because of my race, or whether it's because of my, economic background, whatever, I've never had an opportunity. And I see so many people that do not have opportunities, and I want to give them the opportunity. So it was more than I get to sell a 3-bedroom, 2-bath ranch. It was more than I just sold this cool condo. So there was something deeper for her. Does that make sense? And so, like, when the people that enrolled her into this company, they showed features and benefits. And sure, maybe as a real estate agent, she felt that there was some significance in that. Maybe if she could make 6 figures a year, she could take care of her family and maybe some other people. So there was areas that, for some reason, that she came in and joined this company. But I found the core just by asking what's important to you about, finding common ground, asking another level deeper, and then going one more level deeper. Ultimately, what's most important to you about that? I found what really mattered to her, her values inside of her. Does that make sense? Like what she's willing to die for and definitely willing to live for, to help people. And why it meant so much to her, her criteria. When I discovered that, I was like, gotcha. Hey, listen, number one, I thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing that. And, you said you wanted to be able to make the kind of money to be able to help people because of this, and this in your family. And I kind of just repeated back what she said with empathy. And I repeated back and I said, does that make sense? And she's shaking her head. Yeah. I said, with us, with our company, that's exactly what we're going to help you do. And here's how we're going to do it. See, now, what happened there? I took her criteria, I connected it in a way that was important to her. And when she told me what was truly important, she's literally crying. I then could look and go, wait a minute, does the company, now I wasn't there to recruit her, I was there to serve this as an example. But if I had been trying to recruit her, and I was a real estate recruiter for a season there, if I wanted to recruit her, I knew what's most important. I could show her how our company could help her with this, and this. So recruiting her became like something, if I could authentically do that, legitimately do it, I had something great to offer her. Does that make sense? And so I could have recruited her. Now, it was so powerful. It was so powerful because after the training session, we continued training, and I talked more about criteria and rapport and linking their values to your product or service consciously and unconsciously. But at the end of the session, it may have been 5 minutes later, I get a text message. And this is the guy who invited me into this team to do the training. And he said, hey, man, quick question. Like, I know you wouldn't do this, but and he mentioned her name. Was she a plant? Did you have her come on just to role play that? Because, dude, I've never seen somebody get so emotional and give you so much in 5 minutes. It may have been 10 minutes, but I was like, he said, I know you didn't, man, but I have to ask. I picked up the phone and called him. I'm like, dude, outside of you, I knew nobody out of these, 50, 70, 80 agents. And he's like, yeah, I know that, man. In fact, I didn't even ask. In fact, I called up someone else as soon as I sent you the text message, and they were like, no, this is her name, and she's part of the team. And he was like, oh, okay. But he said, wait, I'm blown away because I've never seen such powerful connection from somebody you had never met. And I said, the reason you've never seen such powerful connection because you've never taken time to find out what's really important to people. You've never literally looked at the values, because we're taught, yes, we're to discover what their needs are. Then we get into like creating a gap from where they're at to where they want to be. And then we're taught, hey, here's the features, and this feature gives you this benefit, and the benefit of this benefit is, and listen, there's a time and place for all of that. There's not always going to be an opportunity to go and get someone's values and do values-based selling. But in this situation, it was spot on. Now, I'm gonna go back with me in time about 25 years. So maybe 22 years. I'm in the midst of studying this, and I'm using it every day. I'm in the insurance industry. I'm selling life insurance and disability. And so I'm speaking with people every day. I'm also working. I was actually a service manager for an automobile dealership. So I've got people coming in every day with issues, and I'm trying to solve their issues, and I'm trying to legitimately sell them, services for their vehicle. And so I'm practicing this every single day. And I'm at lunch with one of my coworkers, or two of my coworkers actually, and one, she just keeps, like the whole conversation. She's basically hijacked the conversation, and she's like, hey, I don't know what to do. Should I go out with this? She was dating two guys at the same time. One was John, and I don't remember the other guy's name. She's like, which one should I date? Which one should I go out with? I'm so torn. I'm so confused. And so I'm listening, and, I don't really have any advice on either guy, but it's important to her. And this is really important. What's important to her should have been important to me as a friend. So I'm like, hey, you know what? Let's just we've got about an hour for lunch. We're about 50 minutes in. I don't have a lot of time, but let me just solve this problem for her. And I say, hey, listen, I'm just curious, like, when it comes to a relationship, like, what's really important to you about it? What's most important? She said, well, with John, I've got this. And I said, no. I'm not talking about John or the other guy. I'm just like, lay all that aside for a moment. When it comes to you, when it comes to a relationship, like, what's most important to you in a relationship? She gave very surface level answers. Oh, that he loves me, treats me well, he's faithful, that kind of stuff. I'm like, gotcha, cool. And again, I didn't go deep like I did on the real estate call, 22 years later. I had only like 5 minutes because I'm going to get back to work. So I got you, cool. So you said this is important. And one thing that she did say was, the faithful part. She said that twice. I said, gotcha. So, that he takes care of you, that he loves you, and you mentioned that he's faithful. Like what's most important to you about faithfulness? Why is that important? What about that is so important? And then she went a little deeper. And again, I've got 5 minutes. So I listen. I'm like, gotcha. Okay, I can respect that. And I'm not making dialogue here. I'm just kind of listening. And I said, cool. And she gave another phrase, and this is what's important. And I said, okay, gotcha. So like, when it comes to that, like ultimately what's most important about, and the phrase that she'd repeated again, it was at that moment, same thing, her physiology changed. She kind of looked straight ahead, but kind of up, and she says, oh, well, what's most important is, and she doesn't even get it out. She doesn't even get it out. And she said, it's John. It's John. See, what happened there was like unconscious, her unconscious mind had just been brought to the consciousness. Her unconscious desires, feelings, fear, maybe, all of that was brought to the forefront. And she instantly connected John to that because he met that criteria. He met those values. She said, it's John. I'm 100% certain. I know it's John. I said, okay, but why though? Like, talk to me about that. Share with me, like, what's most important about that? And I went back to the character trait. And she began to tell me and why John was the one. I'm like, well, cool. Now you know what to do. Now, here we are, 20 plus years later. They're still together. They're happily married. They're doing well in business. They're like, it was exactly what she needed to hear. But I didn't say, well, I think it's John or the other guy based on this. She had to bring it up for herself. Now, this is what I've done with so many clients, with so many prospects, that is, again, once it's conversational, the resistance is low, and you're really good at getting them to continue talk. Like, tell me more about that. And get them to continue talking. You'll be able to pull in information that you can later use in your pitch to share with them why you are the company, the product, the service that they need. Now, and I'll share this maybe on another recording. My wife's given me permission, but even with my wife on our very first date, which she was very clear, this is not a date, we're just grabbing food, I was able to find out in casual conversation, I know you're not looking to date. I know that's not what you're focused on right now. And I know this isn't a date. But like when it does come to relationships, I'm curious, like, what's most important to you in a relationship? And I did, through much more slow-paced conversation, about 30 minutes, found out what was ultimately important to her. Then I had to ask myself, can I ethically, morally, and authentically be that person for her? And I knew I could. And here we are, many years later, been married now 16 years. We have 4 daughters together, a storybook marriage without a doubt, because I know what's important to her. And those values seldom change. So what's important to you about 5 powerful words? And the best way to do this is just practice with people that are not even prospects, just people that you know in everyday life. Hey, listen, I'm curious. What's important to you about your job? What's important to you about a relationship? What's important to you about your church? What's important to you about whatever? Listen, learn how to build that dialogue, learn how to take it another level deep. So it will definitely change the way you do business, and it'll definitely make people feel truly connected to you.